Okay, that's sounding pretty good to me. Test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Josh, that's you. That's the Josh man. That's the Josh man. Test, 1, 2. We're waiting for Josh Parrish to put on his headset. Baby's first headset. His first words. Josh Parrish, over to you.
Dad does. My headphone volume is very low.
I can
crank me.
Yep.
Crank that.
Is that better?
That is a lot better. I feel like my mic might be a bit low as well.
Yeah. Hang on. I'll keep going.
Actually, that's a lot better. Yeah. Check. 1, 2. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2. Right. We may be in the cold, icy embrace of midwinter, but the football in action tonight at Olympic Village is red hot. Deja vu in the Dockerty Cup as two of Victorian football's biggest historical rivals meet for the 120th time. The Greek derby between Heidelberg United and South Melbourne for a place in the Dockerty Cup semi-finals, as we pause here for a moment's silence. Silence observed at Olympic Village to mark the passing of former Heidelberg United board member and dedicated club supporter Peter Jasonidis. Was a board member of the club in the early to mid-1990s and a proud supporter for far longer than that. Great to see both sides on either end of the Greek derby divide dedicating a moment to his memory as both of the 11s get set for, well, another instalment of the Greek derby, a very exciting one, but a familiar one. It's been just 17 days since these two sides last met in NPL Victoria, and if that is a taste of what awaits tonight under the bright, revamped lights of Olympic Village, then we should be very, very excited if we're watching on at home. It was a 1-0 scoreline courtesy of an absolute worldie from Asahi Yokokawa inside the opening 10 minutes that saw Heidelberg secure their 5th consecutive unbeaten game against South Melbourne in the Greek derby and continued their unbeaten record here at Olympic Village into the 430-day mark. It has been 21 league games since their last defeat here at OV to Heidelberg, or to Oakley I should say, all the way back in March of 2023. And it is an imperious form line that they'll look to continue against the South Melbourne side, who we're talking about how much Oakley loved playing, or Heidelberg loved playing at Olympic Village. South Melbourne, quite the opposite. They have suffered some terrifying recent results here, not least back-to-back grand final losses in 22 and 23, but defeats in successive fashion against Heidelberg United here at Olympic Village. They have not won here at this venue since 2019, but with a do-or-die clash in the offing and the chance to face Hume City in the Dockerty Cup semi-final, and of course knock off a historic rival in the process. Who knows, maybe, just maybe, tonight could be the night that South Melbourne break the curse of the boneyard here at Olympic Village. It should be an absolute cracker if you're joining us on the Football Victoria Facebook and YouTube pages. Lockie Flanagan joined tonight by Josh Parrish. Josh, you were there on Sunday as Mario Barcia set the world on fire with an outrageous goal, even if it was a disappointing result going down to South Melbourne, or going down to Oakley, out at South Melbourne's home ground, Lakeside. I suspect we're getting another taste of high-quality stuff like that Barcia goal tonight.
Well, yes, Lockie, pleasure to be here, even if there are stalactites slowly forming on the tip of my nose. But Mario Barcia has been rewarded with a start here this evening after his wonder goal lit up Lakeside. We've also got Jack Painter Andrews, Andy Brennan and Mihajlo Marinkovic coming into the team, with Cooper Halfpenny dropping out. Jack Pope ruled out due to being cup-tied with the Eastern Lions, and Emil Payos and Morgan Evans dropping to the bench.
Heidelberg United unchanged from the side that played out an absolutely corking 1-1 draw with Avondale. 2 goals inside the 90 minutes plus stoppage time. Avondale looked to have won it right bang on 90 minutes through Sion Cuba, but a debut goal for Sabit Ngor, a thumping header, saved the day, continued the Burgers' unbeaten run at home. They are the only side in inside the opening 20 rounds of the season, who are yet to lose in front of their home support, a record that they hope will continue into a 481st day here at Olympic Village. It's South Melbourne with the early spell of possession. Marshall sends one to chase for the attackers, the likes of Noel Bernarda and Andy Brennan. Of course, South did suffer that frustrating defeat to Oakley on Sunday, and they were missing a very big name at the top of the tree as Marinkovic streams forward and forces a good save out of Souza, the Heidelberg keeper, called into action early, and this has been a bright start for South Melbourne, and a nice early run from a surprise starter in Mihailo Marinkovic.
Esteban Quintas has given the kids a chance in recent weeks, and Marinkovic is one of those players who's been rewarded with first-team appearances, already has a goal to his name in South Melbourne colours, and almost added a second there, but for a brilliant reflex stop from Souza.
Long throw from Painter Andrews, dealt with at the first time of asking by the Heidelberg defence, but not on the second. They're going to do well to clear here, and the spillage will fall to Mikola. Solid start from South. Mikola roosts a high ball into the air. Feta Hadjic missed it in flight, and it's still alive. Andy Brennan, top of the penalty area, has runners either side, drives the cross in low. And the Burgers defence repel once more. Painter Andrews. And a promising start for South. Bring forth an early goal. Barcia was hoping to replicate his efforts from Sunday with another world-class goal from distance, but not to be that time. Yaron Souza didn't even attempt to make a dive in its direction.
I think Mario Barcia has license to shoot from anywhere he chooses after Sunday's heroics. Certainly in the mood.
It is exceedingly rare that you get a week where a goalkeeper scores a 95th minute equaliser and it's potentially coming second in the goal of the week race. Pickings for Ben Collins, who was on the scoreboard in the Dockerty Cup fixture that sent Heidelberg both to this, the playoff stage, but also the national rounds of the Australia Cup, where they will be hosting A-League opposition here once again in the form of the reigning champions, the treble winners, Central Coast Mariners. Had a fair bit of defending to do here so far. Zara down under the rushing embrace of Noel Bernarda. He attacks with such intensity, the Argentine. I mentioned the absence of Harry Sawyer. He was one of the key missing figures for South, Josh, in that round 19 fixture against, or round 18 fixture I should say, against Heidelberg United here at Olympic Village, as that one falls into the lap of Nicholas Olsen. Runner short in the form of Jamal Ali. Olsen looking to buy a yard and fashion a cross. He's got some serious coverage to contend with, and eventually he does retreat to Ali. Idara now for Lesiotis, and it's a handy reverse pass towards the byline. It's cut back into the middle, and the flag came up. What's the decision here? Is it a free kick or a corner? I wager that's a free kick right on the edge of the penalty area for Heidelberg United.
Brilliant early chance for the Burgers to respond after it's been all South Melbourne in the opening exchanges. Looking back at that round 18 clash, Harry Sawyer did play that day, but he's been out since then. Missed the game against Altona Magic, missing again against Oakley, and he's back on the bench today, so we'll see if they're forced to turn to him. I'm sure Esteban Quintas would prefer to have the result wrapped up and not have to bring back his talisman too early, but if it comes at the cost of a Dockerty Cup semi-final, I think he'd be willing to roll the dice.
We see Esteban Quintas throw caution into the wind, but there is much at stake here. Much at stake at this free kick as we await the opening goal at Olympic Village. Olsen's in swinging at the near post was Ali, attacking it was Marzis, and on the turn the shot is blocked en route. It was Ben Collins, the central defender, turned attacker. Oh, and now there's a bit of a scuffle in the middle as well. A couple of players hitting the turf.
Well, this is a hot-blooded one, Lockie. Just a couple of weeks ago, Josh Pinn sent off for a tangle with Marko Jankovic.
The very same Josh Pinn who does not feature in tonight's fixture. That is a very large absentee. He's been such a key figure for the Burgers this season.
And he's been so good in the Cup as well. 5 goals, which even eclipses Sawyer's efforts.
Yeah, he scored 2 in that 6-0 win against the Bentley Greens that we mentioned earlier. Ben Collins was on the score sheet. Nicholas Olsen was at the double as well.
Well, it's Collins going over to confront Noel Bernarda after he felt he was shoved to the ground. And then it's Jankovic, in fact, in the thick of things again.
Clattering in. Kind of hot, heavy-handedness you expect of a Greek derby as it's swung towards the back post. Glanced away, South Melbourne, after such an energetic start. A blistering opening 4 to 5 minutes from them. It's now they who begin to soak up a bit of pressure at the hands of Heidelberg. Hajic and Ali dancing around along the penalty spot. That one is allowed to bounce in the middle, and Javi Lopez was frozen like a statue as there was a touch in the middle from a Heidelberg player. There was a sea of bodies in and around the line. And a man who has had some hairy moments at that end of the field here at Olympic Village is very nearly the recipient of another. And the man with his hands to the back of his head, Aiden Federhajic, who I don't think ever expected, Josh, the ball to actually drop to him in that position.
Well, it looks like a glaring miss at first glance. Then you examine the replay and he's completely blind. The ball just comes through a sea of players in front of him. Maybe his body shape wasn't right. I guess as an attacker you have to gamble in that situation, but Aiden Federhajic knew very little about that, and it's on his weaker right foot as well.
Hopefully this is a taste of the 90 minutes and potentially more to come, because both sides now can lay claim to a clear-cut and very solid opportunity. Mihailo Marinkovic bringing the best out of Yaron Souza. And Federhajic going close to scoring a goal that he might not have known all too much about.
Would have claimed it nonetheless, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
He's yet to score this year, in contrast to his central defensive partner Ben Collins, who's found his scoring touch of late. 3 goals in the league, 1 in the Cup.
Here's Marzis looking to dazzle the South Melbourne defence, but that is easy pickings. And you would expect, Josh, if the form book is anything to read into, despite the fact we've had 2 big chances inside the opening 10 minutes, we're not going to see chances coughed up too easily this evening. They've only conceded 32 goals between them, South and Heidelberg, this season. 16 each, equal best in NPL Victoria. And that's been the backbone of this tremendous unbeaten run at home, Fortress Olympic Village. Only 5 goals conceded here on their home deck in 2024, which is, considering we're 6 rounds remaining of the regular season, seriously remarkable.
I was really surprised, Lockie, going back through this matchup and looking at the recent history between these teams. 4 wins and a draw for Heidelberg in their last 5 games against South.
A big up and under challenge that sent Asahi Yokokawa flying, and no whistle from Michael Mammis, much to the dismay of some of the Heidelberg supporters underneath the grandstand here in Catalina Street. To get you to take a look at that one on the replay, Josh. You can take a look on the replay yourself at home if you're watching on Football Victoria Facebook and YouTube, because that looked like a Stonewaller free kick for me, Josh.
Lockie, I'm absolutely perplexed. That's not just a free kick every day of the week. That's a yellow card every day of the week. He was kicked up in the air, nowhere near the ball. A big air swing from the defender as he went for the ball and just collected both of Asahi Yoshikawa's legs. I cannot believe that Heidelberg haven't been rewarded with a free kick. It's astonishing.
Is that perhaps, Josh, South Melbourne somewhat cynically doing their homework on Asahi Yoshikawa? Of course, it was he who, minutes around this similar time in the game, in round 18, was celebrating what ultimately went on to be the winner.
I doubt they'll be holding back in any challenges, let's say.
You would not want to let up on a 22-year-old former Japanese youth international. He's been a force to be reckoned with in his debut season of NPL Victoria. Big up and under ball is going to be catching practice for Yaron Souza. He'll get the chance to face his former side when the Mariners come to town. A champion with them in 2023. Understudy to Danny Vukovic. They got two of the league's best keepers here tonight as Martis sets a task for Olsen. A great ball. And he fashioned one of his own, Nicholas Olsen. He tried to. South Melbourne got bodies in the way. And Heidelberg, Josh, John Anastasiadis' side have done really well to stem the tide of what was the opening 4 minutes of this fixture.
It was all South Melbourne, wasn't it? That big chance for Marinkovic and a succession of corners and long throws into the box. Now they're on the front foot. It's a beautiful switch of play from Leo Marzis. He's really starting to show his quality in NPL Victoria after a slow start since coming back from Europe.
They were close from the corner before. Olsen delivers into a hot spot again. And it is kept alive by the Burgers. Garcia contested forlornly. Zara with the no-look header. And that's away emphatically by the man whose talents we were just praising in Leo Marzis.
Marzis spent many years in the Celtic youth system. He was pretty highly rated by his coaches there, from all accounts, but he wouldn't be the first Australian winger to struggle to break into the Celtic team.
He's probably one of those players, Josh, to whom the pandemic years weren't particularly kind. A lot of those talents who were on the fringes in Europe, young Australians, sort of got lost to the system in that part of the year and disconnected from their families in a lot of ways as well. But he's loving life here at Olympic Village. Max Mikula. Asahi Yoshikawa was bundled over minutes earlier, and Max Mikula protests his case. Both of them meet the same end result. No whistle from Michael Mammas, who is letting the game flow.
Well, it appears to be the policy tonight. No holds barred. Let it flow.
Dara nearly turned into trouble. So too did Ben Collins. Staunch press work from Max Mikula. They might be released through the far side as Ali gets on the canter. Olsen is given one short. His touch was a little laboured. They've still got plenty of runners forward. And South Melbourne able to deal with the trouble. A game of fine margins unfolding before our eyes already. As you would expect of two of this league's top sides, especially with what is on offer. South Melbourne haven't been to the Dockerty Cup final since they won it all the way back in 2015. It's been nearly a decade. They made the semis back in 2021, I believe, when they were knocked out by Hume. And Heidelberg would be going for back-to-back semi-finals. Lost to Oakley in the big dance last year as Olsen is at the byline, twisting and turning and looking to feed one of the yellow shirts in the middle. He wasn't able to do so. He was really well marshalled. It was not an intentional pun. It was Jordan Lampard who was doing the work. Marshall nearly called into action. As Ali and Olsen start to build their right-hand side connection. Shepherd drops off the front line really nicely. And a bouncing ball drops into the lap of Adrian Zara, who fires it low. Yokokawa, this is shooting range for Yokokawa. Garcia with his long-range speculator inside the opening 5 minutes. He fell at the same hurdle that Asahi Yokokawa did just then, not able to recapture the past magic, the former glory.
And this is concerning for South Melbourne here, Lockie. Javi Lopez is down, and he just signalled for a substitution. He's got his arm in the air as soon as the ball goes out of play. I think he's done the injury earlier in the piece.
Yeah, because he wasn't really called into action by any stretch of the imagination in the preceding play.
Yeah, he's obviously done it maybe a few minutes ago, something he was already struggling with. That looks like a hamstring that he's pointing to, but difficult to tell from this distance.
A nasty one, and they can... It's detrimental for any footballer, but particularly with the sort of athleticism and leaping required for a keeper, it places so much load on the hammies.
Well, if he is dealing with a hamstring issue, it would go some way to explaining his blunder on Sunday that was so out of character.
Would be quite the blow for South Melbourne. We're still in the opening 20 minutes of this Dockerty Cup playoff, the 120th Greek Derby. South Melbourne currently assessing the fitness of the two-time back-to-back reigning NPL Victoria goalkeeper of the year. If there is a player you want to lose in your 11, he is probably pick 11 of that selection. We do have Will Lejeune available to call on, who we have seen 3 times in the league this season. Javi Lopez has had his fair share of absences this year. He's been rested on occasion as well, but it looks as though for now we'll have to keep an eye out for Willem Lejeune on the bench of South Melbourne.
Well, when he went down initially,
okay to continue.
When he went down initially, Lockie, he was making the unmistakable substitution gesture. Maybe the physio has allayed his concerns somewhat, or maybe they're just trying to spend a few minutes getting the substitute ready. Don't want to bring off your goalkeeper, especially on a night that could go the distance, could go to penalties.
Javi Lopez is a player that you want to have for those sorts of moments. That was really well left. Very clever stuff from Marses. Zara has acreage to work with. Actually, for Idara. Be building now. Ali dropping it down was Heidelberg attacker contesting is Leo Marses, and nearly turning into trouble Andy Brennan. Plenty of close calls. That one breaks the way of South. Down goes Noel Bernarda. And once again, it's not met by a whistle from Michael Mamis. Free-flowing game, and I did see Will Lejeune off his feet earlier. Looks to sat back down along with the rest of the South Melbourne subs. It's Heidelberg. They've wrestled control of this game. Masters has been a key part of it. The cross takes a deflection. It drops at the feet of Nicholas Olsen, who can he get the shot away? The answer is no. Bernardo will operate now with back to goal and lead the one-man charge. It's Collins and Federhajic who are backing him in as Bernardo goes from range. And in truth, Josh, it'll get some ironic jeers from the home support here at Olympic Village, but he wasn't blessed with much in the way of options.
There was a late run coming from midfield, but he would have had to hold the ball up for quite some time. Why not have a swing at it? Well, Bernardo, we know he's got the spectacular in his locker. Well, if Lopez does prove to be fine, Lockie, the cynic in me suggests that maybe a momentum-breaking injury treatment might have been positive for South Melbourne. Gave Esteban Quintas the chance to dish out a few instructions.
Maybe it was perhaps a planned thing. Who knows? Put the tinfoil away for now as Shepherd darts the eyes up. Just Slips it into the path of Marsus, who curled a nice ball in. It had to be repelled by, I'll give you a try fancy, Zara. Rather, it was Marshall who headed clear. Idara. Heidelberg have had the last 15 to 10 minutes all their own way. Shepherd. Held up well by Marshall, with support found in this form of Lesiotis. And now Yokokawa. Again, needs a similar end result as we've seen of a few shots so far. South Melbourne making themselves tricky to beat. They're affording Josh a lot of possession to Heidelberg in and around the box, but it's been breaking through that has proved the tricky part. This pass and move game from Heidelberg, I suspect it could come up trumps eventually. We've got South Melbourne penned into their own half at the moment.
That was a superb tackle, though, from Jake Marshall on Kane Shepherd, who's so good with his back to goal in those situations. This is a really sustained spell of pressure from the Burgers, and you wager it's only a matter of time before they carve out a chance.
Shepherd, his influence on the game is starting to grow, but he's been robbed of possession. Could this present a chance on the counter-attack for South? Andy Brennan wants to take it and run. Bernarda, the only player with reinforcement, and Brennan doesn't need him. This is quite the run from Brennan, and it drops for Barcia, or rather Bernarda, who was in an offside position anyway.
Yeah, wouldn't have counted, but Andy Brennan loves it in those situations where the ball breaks to him in space and he can slalom at defenders. He's so fast, he's so strong, and he just has this knack of riding challenges and skipping over tackles.
He's got his running style, he tends to sort of jink and feint quite a lot.
It's a lolloping stride,
you don't really, as a defender, I think it's actually quite hard to tell which direction he's going to go, even when he does drop the shoulder coming towards you.
I just look at his goal against Knights in the earlier cup rounds. It's exactly that.
And it says something about the quality that Andy Brennan has got at his boots. That's almost the textbook Andy Brennan goal, because you were going to say against Knights in the cup, I was going to say against Port Melbourne in the previous season, because they were both similar goals where he just has it all his own way and carries it a fair portion of the field. Ali has found himself in a nice position further forward here, just to get round all comers. The inventive pass was a nice one. Not quite matched by the cross from Shepherd. Perhaps betwixt and between the shot and the cross, one would wager.
I think in hindsight, Kane Shepherd should have had a ping. He's so good. And he curls it with his instep off the half turn. Well, this has been a good watch so far. Well, again, I've been really impressed with the way Heidelberg are using the ball, but we just saw there a minute or so ago the counter-attacking threat that South Melbourne do pose with the likes of Bernarda and, of course, Andy Brennan.
Idara setting a task for Shepherd, who gives chase. Zara. And now Idara, which is through the legs of Yokokawa. Exciting for Adrian Zara. National rounds that are coming up, getting to go not full circle. He wasn't a former Mariner or anything like that, but of course he's one of the few players that remain from the side that knocked off Perth Gorey back in the day. Another presence who looms large on the bench. Had the assist for the winner, Josh, Sean Ellis. One of many figures, I think, that loom large currently on the Pine. Harrison Sawyer as well, as we've mentioned.
Sean Ellis, what a servant he's been to the Burgers, but Zara is just so eminently useful. He's played in almost every position you can think of. Left back is the spot where he can get in the team at the moment. And that's where he plays. Even as a right-footed player, he makes the spot his own. Valuable experience.
He's been such a servant to this club. That is a lovely ball, nearly over the top for Marsus. Painter Andrews hooks it away at full stretch.
Is that Ben Collins? I think it might have been.
Yeah, it was.
He's a cultured ball-playing defender, Ben Collins.
I mean, he has followed John Anastasiadis from, of course, where they were together at Western United when Johnny A was the assistant there, and Ben Collins was a fresh-faced academy captain. And the minute Johnny A took the Burgers job, which of course Ben Collins was at Melbourne Knights at the time, it was almost the first signing.
And I think he's built his team around Collins. That's been emblematic of the change. As Michael Mammis does reach for his whistle for the first time in what seems like an eternity. But Ben Collins has epitomised the stylistic and cultural shift at Heidelberg under Johnny A. The style of football that they want to play, it's much more possession heavy. Got a free kick in a good position here, which is Yokokawa and Nick Olsen over it.
Delivery, Ken Yokokawa fashion. A bit of a shallow one, flicked on by Aidara, and it'll be out harmlessly for a goal kick. A bit more dip on the header, and that couldn't well have caused a few problems if it bounced in the penalty area, but just didn't quite get all the timings connected properly. Mohamed Aidara. The first meeting in the Dockerty Cup of Heidelberg United and South Melbourne since 2015. After 26 minutes played, Josh is not letting us down.
It's been an absorbing watch so far. I think a goal would really ignite this game. Am I right in saying, Lockie, that Heidelberg are undefeated against the fellow members of the top four this year in the league?
Yes, their form lines are almost, I don't think fully, actually I'm not sure that's, I might have to fact check you in a second, Josh. The South Melbourne come forward, Bernarda, it's cut into the middle, and the Heidelberg player got a touch. Mikola drives it in, punched away by Souza. Barcia, he's gone for it again. To no avail. Heidelberg did obviously suffer defeat to Oakley Cannons, but I believe that is their only defeat against the present-day top four. Archibald, not a bad cross, but just lacking a bit of purchase. You can see where the idea was. Brennan was well positioned in the centre. South Melbourne, though, on the other hand, they have not won. They are winless against the top four so far this season. A draw and a defeat to both Heidelberg and now Oakley as of Sunday. A defeat at home to Avondale. It's been a real sticking point, despite the fact they've knocked off all the other sides before them. A 4-point gap between they and Avondale at the top now. Painter Andrews stooping down to clear was Zara. Brennan was physical, and the second ball dropped kindly for Jamal Ali, who we know can fancy himself to head off on a bit of an adventure now and again, Josh, but I think he was always fighting against the weight of numbers.
He's done well to earn a throw in that situation. Barcia's latest spectacular attempt was a little Paolo Di Canio-esque. He sort of inverted scissor, the upright scissor volley.
We have a bit of a phrase, Josh, in the commentary caper, chasing the dragon. It does feel a little bit like that. That same principle might have beset Mario Barcia this evening. He looks to oh, that is a lovely pass right into the feet of Andy Brennan, marshalled well by Anthony Lesiotis. Zara. Switch, asked a lot of Olsen, and his first time pass for Shepherd was wonderful. Really nice link-up play from the Burgers. And Yokokawa was there on the far side, but Olsen just left his knock short.
I think the pass had to come a touch earlier as well from Olsen. The first time pass off the crossfield ball to cushion that for Shepherd was just beautiful, but he just needed to ping that into space for Marzis a little earlier so he didn't have to slow down.
It's been a solid game so far though, Nicholas Olsen. He's been involved in a lot down the right-hand side, and plenty of the good work that Heidelberg have done in the past 25 minutes.
It's been quite a find. Obviously, if a player comes to you with A-League experience, you tend to go for them, but he's been the perfect kind of Sean Ellis replacement, if you like.
Mikola just past the reach. Marinkovic and Bernardo in the middle.
And then you can save the actual Sean Ellis for, those 20-minute brilliant bursts off the bench.
You say replacement for Sean Ellis, not just in terms of pure lookalikes, but actual footballing attributes and position on the park. But it is an albeit unintentional, Josh, double entendre on your part.
It must have been awkward when he showed up for his first training session. Sean saying, "Johnny, is this guy replacing me?" No, of course not.
Oh, me. I'm so confused. He may look like Sean Ellis, Nicholas Olsen, but he'll have to be here for some time to fill the shoes of the flame-haired Scot. Marinkovic. South Melbourne starting to regain a bit of a foothold in this game, but that pass was not the best. Bernardo did well at least to corral Collins as he looked to clear, and South will attempt to lock it into this right-hand side. 31 minutes played. A ripping Dockerty Cup playoff so far. Goalless as it stands, but not for lack of trying. And if we remain this way for the hour that we've got to come, we'll get an extra 30. Maybe even more. It's been a long time since these two sides faced off in a penalty shootout, but we might save that history for now, as Bernardo is going on a silky run. In the middle was Mikola. And in the right place at the right time, Anthony Lesiotis to knock the ball away. South Melbourne all too happy to take the set piece.
That was lovely from Bernardo. Futsal style, rolling over the ball as he dribbled. Couldn't quite find Mikola, but how strong they are off corners.
I feel like we're just seeing a generally very high standard of play across the board tonight so far, Josh. This is a short corner routine from South Melbourne. Brennan with a fizzing cross. A few claims of handball. It's been furiously contested. Marko Jankovic was convinced that it should have been a South Melbourne spot kick, but they'll have to content themselves with a corner from the opposite side.
At first glance, Lockie, I think that would have been extremely harsh.
The distance from attacker to defender would have been infinitesimal.
Ben Collins hitting the deck again.
That time it didn't seem to be under too much duress either, so that was an interesting one.
The contact was with Ross Archibald, if you call it that. He's angrily telling Ben Collins to get back up.
Another short routine. Barcia can hit them, did hit them, didn't catch it.
That's number 3 for Mario Barcia. I said he had license to shoot from anywhere, but not indefinitely.
I was talking about the commentary terminology of chasing the dragon. There is also a basketball parlance, the hot hand fallacy. Barcia's like, well, I've hit it once, I got to still be good. Archibald. He's cleared that one into throw-in territory for Heidelberg, but been lauding the transfer business that Heidelberg have done over the course of 2024. Ross Archibald has been quite an underrated pickup for South Melbourne, coming across from the Sharks. From Port Melbourne, of course, not Cronulla, should specify.
I reckon he could do a job. He's got the build for it.
He's absolutely got the build for it. Yaron Souza. 7 saves in NPL Victoria this season.
I'd like to see him getting in the box a little bit more in open play. That's one thing I would love to see from Ross Archibald, because he's such an aerial threat.
Yeah, particularly in the absence of Harrison Sawyer. I know it may be a bit harder for him because he does sometimes drop in as that almost auxiliary centre-back sometimes when they need it, but he's just, as you said before, got the physical profile to do something like that. You have to cut back quickly here. A nice ball to Yokokawa, cut into the middle. And it was Mario Barcia who just pumps it out. That's the really entertaining thing about this Heidelberg United side, Josh. They're good in possession, they're good in the counter, but they in terms of the pace of their ball movement, they can flip that switch on you so quickly, and that looked like a pretty slow play, and it became fast and dangerous out of nowhere. Zara shifting his weight onto the right, fizzing it in for Shepherd, and Idara kept it alive, but to no avail.
I think Idara had a little more time than he knew. It was a difficult height to control the ball. Heidelberg do have that change of pace in them. Oh, Javi Lopez opting out of taking the goal kick. I assume that's tactical.
And yet receives short. And goes short.
Jury's still out. Will he clear it?
I don't know. I'm not sure if Jake Marshall is getting the hint. He keeps going back to his goalkeeper. But the Spaniard continues to connect the play for South. Full stretch. Mikola couldn't reel the ball in.
We are on Javi Lopez hamstring watch tonight. We're on high alert at the moment.
The string. Here's Idara for Olsen. The tricky customer for Jordan Lampard tonight. Lesiotis. It's a real fluid movement from the Burgers. Marzis has come across to the right in support of Ali. Olsen in the middle. Ali. And now Lesiotis. The captain Adrian Zara. Trying to pick the gap in this South Melbourne defence. Marzis, Ali, they're building really nicely, the Burgers. All the promising build-up meets the same end result. South Melbourne, the white shirts in the right place at the right time, at the cost of a corner for the home side.
I was wondering coming into this game, Lockie, if Heidelberg were going to use Oakley's win on the weekend as a blueprint. I think the answer is absolutely not. They are staying true to themselves. Putting together some lovely passing combinations at the moment. Will it result in a breakthrough is the question.
Another Olsen in swinger. Oh, it's knocked across the face of the penalty box. Ben Collins keeping alive at the back stick. All eyes turn to Javi Lopez because he's been humming and ahhing about these long goal kicks. We've been on hamstring watch. And it looks as though all the South teammates that he might have to call too short as he returns to place the ball in his technical area have evaded him, so he will go long.
It's a tactical timeout, Lockie. That's what I keep saying.
Playing some games here, South. Currently locked in a good one at Olympic Village. The Dockerty Cup playoff. Dropped over the top for Andy Brennan, who doesn't have much in the way of support in the middle. And another set of half-hearted penalty appeals as it's getting a bit hot and heavy. Souza with the shove. And Souza with the booking. Interesting burst of ruthless aggression from Yaron Souza there. A shove and a ticket that he probably didn't need to give away, Josh. It seemed a bit of a nothing call.
Well, I think the right decision was made. He had nothing to complain about. There's been a lot of accusations of diving from both teams to each other.
Great shape on that one. Flicked on and cleared off the line. It's going to be play drawn dead regardless. Michael Mammis spotting something he didn't like in the build-up. We'll take another look at what was a delightful delivery from Andy Brennan. And there was that set-piece prowess we were talking about from Ross Archibald. I believe the initial touch towards goal was his, and it was Anthony Lesiotis, even if it wouldn't have counted for anything, who picked up the pieces. Who's going to pick up a booking here is Anthony Lesiotis, just getting robbed of the ball by Mihailo Marinkovic. So a free kick in a decent but central position. Josh, you've had another look at the corner from which South went close.
I think Ross Archibald may have had arms on the shoulders, but it's difficult to pick one out from that. Well, that's exactly the sort of energy that Esteban Quintas will want from young Mihailo Marinkovic playing in that number 10 role. Jack Pope had the job against Oakley on the weekend, put in a very respectable 60-minute shift. And you've got to be able to press the opposition into mistakes.
Jack Pope, who of course is cup tie, the new signing from Eastern Lions. As Mikola leaves it for Brennan. Nice waiting on the ball, but it just didn't dip in time for Marshall to lash a shot goalwards.
It seems like such a waste, Lockie. They've got aerial superiority. If you look at the height differential between the sides, I mean, Heidelberg have got a few pieces of tall timber at the back, but not
just
nearly.
Look from right to left across the pitch, it just sort of, with the exception of Kane Shepherd, it just tapers off.
It's a gradient.
It really is.
Oh, 2 Heidelberg players down now.
In the wars at the moment, the Burgers. Spot fires in multiple places and 2 on the turf, both requiring treatment. Collins, I believe, is one on the right-hand side. Jamal Ali is the other. And Ali, by virtue of just being closer to the Heidelberg technical area, is the one who receives treatment from the physio first. During which time, Josh, I think Ben Collins is back onto his feet. So the greater concern now turns to Jamal Ali.
You see, you leave them for long enough, Lockie, and they learn to soothe themselves.
It's like babies. They never cry straight away. They only cry once the parent says, "Oh my God, are you okay?"
Exactly. If the physio ignores them, they'll probably be okay.
3 minutes left to play in the first half of this Dockerty Cup playoff game, the 120th instalment of the Greek Derby here at Olympic Village. A venue at which Heidelberg have had the measure of South Melbourne in recent meetings. And also historically, they just edge the ledger here at home. All things told, it is 56 wins in the Greek Derby to Heidelberg's 41. And as we mentioned earlier, it's been 9 years since their last meeting in the State Knockout Cup. A semi-final clash back in 2015, which is, of course, maybe that could be a good omen for South Melbourne, because the last time they played Heidelberg in the Cup, well, they won the Cup. That was the last time they made the final. It was quite the semi as well at Jack Edwards Reserve. Kane Shepherd was the opening scorer, and he could still be here 9 years on before a second half double from Nick Epifano sent South Melbourne on their way to their most recent Dockerty Cup success. As they drive towards goal in search of the opener, Archibald, and up and under, which will be easy pickings for Aaron Souza. There's a hot football for Feder Hajic. Bernardo gave chase well, and unfortunately for Brennan, didn't stay in play, but it's been a couple of times now, Josh, we've seen the Heidelberg defenders. I guess that's the risk that John Anastasiadis is willing to take with the style of football that they play, but a few times the Heidelberg central defenders have been caught cold in possession.
Just in the last few minutes, the South Melbourne press has been ferocious.
It was amped up, and Heidelberg will do well to release it. The good news for them is that if they can, there might be some gaps opening up for them as they canter forward. Ali. Bouncing ball is kept alive by Asahi Yokokawa, who returns the favour to Ali. Required a touch from Javi Lopez. Olsen will keep it alive for the Burgers on the far side.
No one gambling the back stick. It was an extraordinary passing move from back to front from Heidelberg, and then still alive here
Marzis. The second bite at the cherry down the right for Heidelberg, and this time the attack stopped in its tracks. Ben Collins, not the best clearance. It drops at the feet of Noel Bernarda.
Well, I think this is where Heidelberg really missed Josh Pinn, because Kane Shepherd prefers to wait for a cutback and just hold his run and try and shake a defender that way. But Josh Pinn will always motor into the box and try and get a tap in. They're a good 1-2 punch, and I think without one of their premier goal scorers, maybe the positions they take up in the box aren't quite as second nature. Credit Mo Idara, though, for his composure early in the move against the press. He's so good at that, just letting opponents bounce off him and keeping the ball under immense pressure in dangerous situations.
It was a heavy touch by Mario Barcia, and it is interesting, Josh. You know, we obviously, fans, pundits, coaches all have their own opinions, but I do always value the player's perspective on what they think of the individual markers they come up against. And Max Mikola, if you ask him who his least favourite opponent in NPL Victoria is, he will tell you it is that man you were just talking about, Mohamed Idara. He just does not stop running, and he's so hard to knock off the ball. I'm not a midfielder myself, but I have to say Idara would be one of my top picks for who I'd least like to play against.
He's just got a knack of just extending a leg and stretching and getting a toe to the ball when you least expect it as well.
It was a bit of an awkward one for Collins. Again, slides it into the path of Idara, the Senegalese midfielder. He looks like he's playing on easy mode sometimes. Brought into the NPL Victoria in 2021 by Altona Magic.
I think Yokokawa unlucky again not to get a free kick.
I don't know what he did to Michael Mamis in a past life, but it seems as though he's getting his retribution now as we get towards the end of the first half here at Olympic Village. I believe Mohamed Idara, before the mid-season window last year, so about this time a year ago, Josh, was playing in State League 2 for Mill Park. How did all 14 NPL clubs allow him to drop to the State Leagues? He has been a mainstay ever since returning to the Burgers at the tail end of the George Katsakis era. It's a good ball for Shepherd, who will look to turn provider. Had to be knocked off course by Marshall. South Melbourne conceding a corner deep into first half stoppage. Nicholas Olsen, much like Andy Brennan, actually, the quality of corner deliveries tonight so far has been on point. Olsen looking to hope to continue the trend. Two arms aloft. The delivery shallow. South Melbourne and the first, the second, and the third bite at the cherry. But Heidelberg will get the fourth, and that could be the most important. Marzis. Ali. The dancing feet of Jamal Ali. It's back to Olsen. Oh, and chested into a dangerous area, but an important touch nonetheless by Jordan Lampard. Harvey Lopez was a little bit betwixt and between there, and Lampard was put into an uncomfortable position.
He had to thread the needle, didn't he? Off the chest.
It was not a touch he would have wanted to make, but one that he had to, and he had to get it perfect. But the danger not averted. Yokokawa's delivery to the back post. A swing and a miss that brings us to the end of a very entertaining first half in Greek Derby 120. The Dockerty Cup playoff, the fight for the right to face Hume in the semi-finals. Well, if that is a taste of things to come, then a big second 45 awaits. Is there a team who looks to be edging at Josh after 45 minutes play?
I think Heidelberg have shaded it. They've had control of possession. South Melbourne, we know, are very comfortable sitting on the edge of their box, but just in those last few minutes there, you saw, that was not a comfortable touch for Jordan Lampard. They're riding their luck a little bit here, and they'll need to change things to get themselves higher up the pitch in the second half. They've had chances as well, of course, but I just feel as if Heidelberg are edging closer and closer and closer to a goal. But knockout football, Lockie, We know anything can happen, and in a derby game, the recent form book would lead towards Heidelberg in the head-to-head, but they will know what they say about form and derbies.
They are turning the screw, the Warriors. The question remains, though, can they pop the cork on the first goal of the evening in the second 45? We could be set for more if they can't. It could even go to penalties for the first time in a long time between two historic rivals. Join us shortly for the second half of the Dockerty Cup playoff game between Heidelberg United and South Melbourne, where at the break it is on as even 0-0. 45 minutes, and who knows, maybe more, standing between Heidelberg United, South Melbourne, and a semi-final spot in the Dockerty Cup against Hume City. It is all to play for as we enter the second half of the 120th Greek Derby at Olympic Village. It is Heidelberg United who finished the first half the strongest, getting us underway in the second. And perhaps in that vein, as I, Lockie Flanagan, are joined once again by Josh Parrish, it is in that vein that South Melbourne have made the first substitution of the game. Mihailo Marinkovic, who was a bit of a surprise starter, he's taken a spot on the bench after 45 minutes played. Emil Payos, his replacement, as both sides look to get the opening goal in what has been a fiercely contested game so far. And one of its key contributors has been Nick Olsen, but he wasn't able to find clean passage further afield that time. Josh, it's a big second half in store at the Village.
Sure is, Lockie. We wonder if Emil Payos can be the man to unlock things for South Melbourne. Marinkovic put in a shift in the first half, but aside from all the effort and running, he didn't do much on the ball, didn't get involved in the game enough. Emil Payos, we know, is a very technically gifted, creative player. Looks like Andy Brennan has moved centrally into that number 10 role, and Payos will play wide. It feels as if Heidelberg finished the half the stronger and shaded it in a very tightly contested first 45. The standard was really high. You can feel how much this game matters to both these teams. And when this new structure came about with the extra Victorian team being admitted to the national rounds of the Australia Cup, there's a bit of eye-rolling going around, an extra game for the teams who draw the short straw.
It was a deft turn by Yokokawa, who receives it in kind and just, I don't think was quite expecting to get the return ball in the way that he did. He did take a touch as Marzis prodded the ball forward. Minor scare for South, but nothing more.
Just to finish my point, I think the recent editions of this playoff game have definitely validated it as a necessary part of the fixture list, but also a very welcome one, especially when it serves up a derby of this quality.
Absolutely inclined to agree, Josh. And I mean, it is a game that you would have liked to have perhaps seen at a semi-final or a final stage, but I mean, you wouldn't know that this wasn't that kind of occasion tonight, the way these two sides have acquitted themselves.
Absolutely.
I mean, the tightly contested nature of the scoreline is to be expected, but the quality of play from box to box has been excellent from both teams.
And a pretty encouraging crowd on a bitterly cold Wednesday night as well. So well done to both sets of supporters for turning out. It's difficult midweek when the conditions are the way they are to motivate yourself to get out to a 7:45 kickoff, but I think they've been rewarded for their patronage so far.
Jamal Ali looking to thread the needle for Kane Shepherd. It's a big half this potentially for Kane Shepherd, Josh. And he's nearly started well there with an enterprising ball for Jamal Ali, but he is caught offside. I feel like he grew into the game as time went on, did Kane Shepherd, but we saw as Heidelberg started to build those attacks from wide areas and particularly find some real threat and invitation down the right flank, that Shepherd in the centre wasn't always in the right place at the right time. That was an observation that you noted. I wonder if John Anastasiadis has perhaps supplied him with some tweaks at the interval.
I think you can see Yokokawa playing much higher in this second half and really trying to get in the box and cause trouble. He did it a few moments ago. It was an unlucky deflection on the cross that just forced him to readjust his body.
Aidara turned into trouble, a rare, nearly loss of possession from the Senegalese midfielder, but it's worked out perfectly for the Burgers. Everything he touches turns to gold, Mohamed Aidara, as Marzis marches down the left-hand side and just showed too much of the ball to Jack Painter-Andrews. He's putting himself nicely on return to the South Melbourne starting 11. Both of South Melbourne's fullbacks tonight, Josh, Jack Painter-Andrews and Jordan Lampard, who's been up against the threat of Nicholas Olsen. They've had their hands full this evening.
Certainly how they're dangerous in wide areas.
South Melbourne look to ask the best of Max Mikkela's missile arms. Some expectant chance spring up from the South Faithful as the long throw is one with decent purchase but a little bit shallow. Can he do it by feet instead? Mikkela into the hot spot, knotted down by Marshall. Clear by Feder Hajic. For all the technical possession quality we've seen in this game, Josh, there has been a fair share of aerial warfare as well.
There's always a bombardment when South get their centre-backs forward. That's something you've got to be prepared for.
And if they are going to progress to the Dockerty Cup semi-final, South Melbourne, they're going to have to be prepared to break some unwanted history. It is 5 years now since their last win here at Olympic Village. In round 13 of season 2019. This is going to be a booking, I fancy, for Max Mikkela. Brought down Nicholas Olsen. Max Mikkela joins a steadily, not rapidly, Josh, but steadily growing list of players into the book. And I wonder, we'll have to have a look at that on the replay, whether Nicholas Olsen might have just joined them for a bit of constructive feedback to Michael Mammis.
Well, it was a nasty challenge. He had one in the first half, Max Mikkela, and he's already picked up 5 yellow cards in the league, so he's going to miss South Melbourne's game on the weekend. Does tend to get himself in a bit of disciplinary trouble.
Archibald. Back to Javi Lopez, who, if he did miss the first half, had a bit of a funny, curious, I think is the best word to describe it, situation with his hamstring. Whether it was feigning hamstring injuries to buy South Melbourne some time to reset, or a serious one where, still, at this point, none the wiser. Payos, a great inviting run from the second half substitute. And Idara continues to be such a cool customer. Even if the Burgers did play themselves into trouble thereafter. Not many in NPL Victoria, Josh. Not many in most leagues would be comfortable just to body feint and keep carrying out of a crowded penalty area with a lot of South shirts like that.
He's got moxie, does Mohamed Idara.
Best clearance out of defence. Barcia, it had to be nipped in the bud, and it was. Efficiently so by Anthony Lesiotis. Collins takes on the challenge of Bernardo, but retreated with Max Mikola covering off the path further afield. Idara. Olsen. We've been two of the Burgers standouts so far in this game. There hasn't exactly been a bad player on the park tonight. Both sides stepping up to the occasion of Greek Derby 120. Yokokawa in search of Ali, who will turn on the afterburners and get the beating of the defence, and Heidelberg take the lead. And it's deja vu in the Greek Derby. Asahi Yokokawa opens the scoring again against South Melbourne. And it will be he who opens the ledger at Olympic Village, but the credit must go to Jamal Ali, who refused to give up on what seemed a lost cause.
Soft defending from South Melbourne. Jordan Lampard has to be stronger. Javi Lopez has to be more decisive there. Just gave Jamal Ali an inch and he took them for a mile. And a very cool finish from Asahi Yokokawa into an open net, but there was a defender rushing back on the line. So he had to pick his spot. Not as spectacular as his last effort against South Melbourne, but it counts just the same. He has been outstanding once again, and he's rewarded with a goal.
Lost cause. Jamal Ali does not know the meaning of the phrase. And his never say die attitude helps Asahi Yokokawa to another goal in what is a seriously impressive debut season of NPL Victoria. And an opening goal that has forced South Melbourne to bring on, well, I say the big guns, what I mean is the big gun, Harrison Sawyer, their captain, fantastic.
The heavy artillery.
Is on the game, and short of 5 minutes earlier when the game was level, he could not be coming on at a better time.
And Max Mikola has been replaced on that yellow card. You know, Esteban Quintas doesn't like players nursing yellow cards.
Well, this a real test for South Melbourne now. It's been quite the opposite of a happy hunting ground, Olympic Village. And they're going to have to come back from a goal down if they're to reach the Dockerty Cup semi-finals, if they are to beat Heidelberg for the first time in 6 meetings, and if they are to win at Olympic Village against any opponent for the first time in 5 years. It's a big task ahead of them. They've got the cattle to do it, Josh. Have you seen the signs from them tonight that they are able to put it all together on the park?
Oh, you said deja vu after the goal, and I think that's exactly what South Melbourne are feeling right now. Every time they come here, it seems to end the same way. They do have Harry Sawyer on the pitch. He could be their saviour, but they have lost the man who takes the long throws in his direction in Max Mikola. But that does push Bernardo into a wide area where he can perhaps get more of the ball, impact the game more in space.
And we've seen what an effective foil Noel Bernardo has been to the looming, towering presence of Harrison Sawyer. And they go direct for that man, Noel Bernardo. South looking to relight the spark. A delightful cross from Lampard, but side-footed clear by the Burgers defence. Probe once more through Lampard. The cross and inviting one. Was there a shove in the middle? A wave of the arm from Michael Mammis.
Oh, Ben Collins, I think it was, flirting with danger there.
Certainly caught in controversy. Lampard once, twice, 3 times. Sawyer! A great save from Yaron Souza. It is not one that will go down on his stat sheet because Harrison Sawyer was in an offside position. But Yaron Souza wasn't to know. Sawyer went for placement. Souza tipped it away with peak efficiency.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that Sawyer goes early there. Good decision from the assistant on the far side, but teasing ball in from Lampard. Lovely shape on it.
Well, they will be very frustrated in the uncharacteristic fashion in which they conceded the opening goal, South Melbourne. They don't cough up a lot. Oh, Souza playing with fire. Idara absolutely fearless. And Marzis is going to do well to reach that ball from Kane Shepherd. Painter Andrews rides the challenge. And they're starting to get to those long clearances of South, and those second balls with Harrison Sawyer on the pitch are only going to become more important. He's found the back of the net against the Burgers already once this season, Harrison Sawyer. After 90 seconds at Lakeside in round 5. Looked to have been a foul there. Advantage was given by Michael Mammis, but no opening really accruing for South, so he will pull it back for the earlier free kick, and I think it was a pretty cut and dry one, Josh, as we take a look at it on review.
Yeah, certainly a free kick. No question about that. South Melbourne have been sparked into life by the concession of that goal. They need to take the initiative now, and Sawyer on the park with Yankovic and Jake Marshall forward. They have the initiative and the cavalry.
Marshall couldn't get a shot away. Bernardo did, and it wasn't a million miles off the mark.
Noel Bernardo struck that really well, found a gap. You just thought for a moment it was about to whistle into the net. He tries to spark a bit of enthusiasm from the away fans as well. Flagging for energy at the moment, South Melbourne, but you have to remember they've had a much shorter turnaround than Heidelberg. Heidelberg played on the Friday night, South Melbourne on the Sunday. It's a pretty significant difference.
Stabbed further afield. The second ball will be an important one, and it is pumped into the night air. The foggy mist at Catalina Street. Collins can't split the difference. Maybe it's a measure of Heidelberg's approach, happy to sit back and try and defend their 1-0 lead, but South Melbourne have certainly taken more of an impetus since falling behind. Heidelberg have been robbed of the ball though. Archibald finds Painter Andrews. The early cross. Sawyer was winding up. Fedahajic was well positioned. Idara continues forward, largely unopposed. You don't want to give him too much time and space, because that's how easily he can pick gaps against you. Such a joy to watch Johnny A's side when they get the ball in phases like this, and Olsen looking to do it all himself. There's a bit of a tangle of legs between he and Noel Bernardo. Sawyer dropping it down for Brennan. And Souza is styling on South. Barcia. It's boot to ball.
Has Pierce Clark emboldened all of the goalkeepers in the competition?
Here's Shepherd. There's a couple of cavalry making their forays into the penalty area. Shepherd could find none of them. Lampard.
Could have held on to it for longer, Lockie, and just waited for the runs to get there. Seems like he hit that one slightly blind.
Melbourne have already brought some of their reinforcements off the bench. John Anastasiadis, let's not forget, is a former, I would say current South Melbourne legend, championship winner at both state and national level as a player and a coach. As Lampard loops it into the path of Harrison Sawyer, the South Melbourne captain. Can't mark his return with a contribution to an equaliser, at least not from that attack. So this break in play bring about the substitutes for Heidelberg United. I think they will make their way onto the field at this critical juncture.
Well, you don't tend to make a change while you're defending a corner. Do you make a change while you're defending a throw if you're playing South Melbourne?
That's basically a corner. It's pretty much the same thing.
It's Jordan Lampard over it. That double change still in the offing.
And I would say to you, Josh, at this point, because we have seen Heidelberg maybe sit back a little bit since they took the opening goal. And I would say, are they maybe courting a bit of undue risk, being content to sit on a 1-0 lead? But I can't say that because they had 10 men for 50 minutes in round 18 and they sat on a 1-0 lead against South Melbourne. As Jankovic loops the ball into the area, the double punch away, and while Brennan fired on goal, Michael Mammis didn't like the contact that came up against an advancing Yaron Souza. And after the delay for Josh, what looked like a stoppage to allow substitutes onto the field, we never had substitutes come onto the field.
Michael Mammis wouldn't let them on the pitch, Lockie, and Heidelberg were absolutely furious about that. It felt like their focus was slightly taken away from defending their box.
Well, now we will get those substitutions, and it's Anthony Lesiotis and Leo Marzis who leave the field of play. Sabit Ngor is one of two substitutes coming on, and I think it is the two new signings in the mid-season window for Heidelberg who make their way onto the field of play. Sabit Ngor and Jaden Gorman, a former Perth Glory player with 7 A-League appearances to his name.
It's a curious wait for that substitution because the remonstrations from Heidelberg meant that the delay was as long as it would have been to make the substitution.
Yes. And Josh, a big double sub for the Burgers. One, because it's something that South Melbourne can't do, which is bring their new signings off the bench. Of course, the likes of Jack Pope, Robert Harding, both cup-tied, whereas Sabit Ngor and Jaden Gorman haven't been playing in the cup, so no such issues. They can come onto the field. But Sabit Ngor will be doing very well to replicate the heights of his Heidelberg debut, where they came on around a similar time to this game as a double sub act in the 62nd minute. And by minute 93, Sabit Ngor had his first Heidelberg United goal to equalise in the dying embers against Avondale.
Yeah, what a way to announce yourself to your new fans. Instant hero, Sabit Ngor. But you always hate as a coach if you've just made a double change and restructured your team, and then you pick up an injury in the next possession. Is that Kane Shepherd who's struggling?
Yeah. And there is another player stripped off on the bench, Sean Ellis.
Might turn from a double into a triple.
In any case, for the moment, Heidelberg play with 10 men. Can South profit? That was a lovely little jink from Brennan. And now Sawyer trying to cut it back. Andy Brennan! What a finish! South Melbourne answer back. And Andy Brennan stands and delivers in the cup again. They had the man advantage. They took full advantage. And the ladder leaders are level at Olympic Village.
Andy Brennan has a habit, a knack, a sixth sense for an important goal, a vital goal. And it draws them level here What composure off his left boot to find the bottom corner first time. In the blink of an eye, South Melbourne right back into this contest. And they have their stalwart to thank.
They have found the going tough in the second half when it has come to fashioning clear-cut opportunities, but well, Harrison Sawyer, who's so often the man who is asked to do little more than tuck the ball into the back of the net, turn provider, and did so beautifully. It was a simple 1-2 punch, a give and go from Brendan and Sawyer, but I feel like describing it as a 1-2 play sells it a bit short, because the turn in midfield from Brennan, the pass was brilliant, and so too was the cutback from Sawyer. It was liquid football from South Melbourne.
It's stunning. Champagne stuff from Hellas. Brennan did such a beautiful job to let the ball run across his body and spin Asahi Yokokawa in midfield, but I think you have to emphasise that Heidelberg were temporarily down to 10 men. They were short-handed. It was almost a power play from South, and they took advantage.
Didn't they ever? That was a beautiful goal from South Melbourne, both in finish and conception.
Well, Johnny Anastasiadis has just made a very attacking change in the lead up to that goal, moving
a really
Yokokawa
fascinating one.
much deeper into midfield, bringing off Leslie Otis as a screener, and it looked like they were exposed straight away there.
And the other big sub that has just been made, Josh, is that Adrian Zara, the captain of Heidelberg United, has left the field of play. Nicholas Olsen will drop into his vacant fullback slot, and Sean Ellis is onto the right wing. And here is the flamehead Scotsman, Sean Ellis, straight into the action.
Well, luckily we saw that sub, Lockie, otherwise would have made our job a little difficult. But Johnny Hayes just pushed all of his chips into the middle of the table at once.
I love it. He is going for glory and looking to win this game in the 90. This Dockerty Cup play-in game has not disappointed, and Idara has scarcely put a foot wrong all night. Or rather, it was Sabit Ngor who hasn't put a foot wrong in this play. Idara for Sean Ellis, his 9th year as a Heidelberg United player. He's in the top 3 of their all-time scorers in club history, alongside some absolute greats. They would love for him to come up with another special goal, and there could be a special strike here, but not to be for Kane Shepherd.
Whistles past the post. Little daisy cutter off the weaker right boot.
Well, if South Melbourne are to go through to the next round of the Dockerty Cup, Josh, and book their spot in the semi-finals, Andy Brennan is going to be one of the heroes of it all. He's scored in 3 of the last 4 legs of the Cup. Against the Melbourne Knights, against Preston, fired a blank against St Albans Saints, and he scores against Heidelberg United. A man for the big occasion, if that stat sheet, that rap sheet, is anything to go by.
He's scored more goals in the Cup this year than he has in the league. 3 and 2 now.
And they've all been... the goal against Preston was a bit of a tap-in. It was an easy goal, but the other 2 have been spectacular. And South could turn the game on its head. And Brennan, the main man, he's the one they want to have the ball right now. Pios takes a touch, which makes it a far easier proposition for Aiden Fedhajic. And Ngor with a blind turn. really interesting story, Sabine and Gore. We've been discussing his breakneck start to life as a Heidelberg United player, but that's only his start to life as a Heidelberg United player in the league. He was signed at the start of the season, Josh, before departing for Finland. Played in the top division there, an opportunity that clearly he couldn't pass down, but now he's come back to the club, re-signed permanently with the Burgers.
Unfinished business at Olympic Village, isn't it?
He's playing for Ilves in the Finnish First Division. Had 2 goals and 3 assists. So it wasn't like he was a peripheral figure that just returned.
Oh, Sean Ellis.
Bundled
Magic.
off the ball as he turns back the years and wins the Burgers a free kick.
Stood up 2 defenders there. There was a lovely drag back earlier in the move as he exchanged passes with his nearest teammate. He's lost a boot in that challenge. That's what you have to do to stop Sean Ellis.
It will be a sad day in Victorian football when the 34-year-old Sean Ellis calls time on a glittering Warriors career. It's been a few games since he's found the back of the net against South Melbourne. A few Greek derbies have gone by. Last time was at Lakeside. Sealer, I believe, was a 2-0 win.
Tell you what, Lockie, I think the Tartan Army could have used a bit more imagination in Germany. Maybe Sean Ellis should be on the radar.
I would have killed for a winger like him. He sits behind Gary Cole, second in the all-time Heidelberg United scorers list. He overtook Jimmy Campbell at the start of this year. He sits in rarefied air. So he looks to turn provider with the best. Gorman with a hit and hope, and that might provide a counter-attack for South. Brennan has been beautiful in these situations so far, but Gorman did really well. The young attacker got his body in the right place. And Michael Mamas, who hasn't whistled for a great deal in this game, was happy to pay that particular infringement.
Well, Jaden Gorman, smartly, is not entertaining the shirt front that Andy Brennan was after there. Just jogged away, didn't fancy it.
That's a fantastic ball to find Kane Shepherd. Can he pick out a teammate in the middle? Tipped away by Lopez. And more distance on the second clearance from the South defence. Brennan for Sawyer, who really has revitalised this South Melbourne side that were looking short of answers in attack.
Well, we speak a lot about his height and his goal-scoring ability. It's also his intelligence, his ability with his back to goal. The way he can use his body to shield the ball off defenders, and his teammates can run on and use him essentially as a wall pass. You know, he's shown the variety of skills in his locker in this cameo appearance so far.
I think he's shown the skills that he's added to his locker as well, as Marshall flicks that one on. Let Sawyer falling a partial victim to the commentator's curse, finding himself behind the last line of defence.
I think he was gambling and looking for the first ball, and in the end he got a flick on and was offside.
Crept into the final 14 minutes of this game, and the second 45 has built on the promise of the first half with goals. Asahi Yokokawa opened the scoring for the second time in as many meetings with South Melbourne early into the second half, and Harrison Sawyer helped reset the ledger for South, setting up Andy Brennan for a delightful side foot finish into the bottom right corner. Nicholas Olsen. Yokokawa searching for Sean Ellis, who is turning on the style Knocked away to the edge of the box and Gore! Just never came back for him. But you can't fault the endeavour, the intent of the 23-year-old. When he sees an opportunity, he's willing to take the game by the scruff of the neck.
What a touch off the chest from Sean Ellis. Is he from Scotland or Sao Paulo? Not sure.
Often teach the mean streets of Brazilian football in Fort William in Scotland, but somehow Sean Ellis has managed to learn it. Sawyer has found himself wide on the right. Even Andy Brennan's dizzying turns are coming good today.
Grew up a street footballer in the Fort William favelas, did he?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what they call them in Scotland, Josh, but something like that.
Great win by Sawyer.
Brennan looking to drop it into the path, and Sawyer strikes first time. That touch was a good one from Collins. Yaron Souza had to stretch every inch of his leg muscles to stop that one from a corner. And usually a throw is as good as a corner for South, but they went short this time around. Lampard wraps his boot around the ball. And a good first touch from Payos, who was round one but not the second. Good tracking back from Sabit and Gore, who can just take it and run if he chooses, but head short for Nicholas Olsen. That was a nice first touch, but the second not quite as good. Barcia. Payos. Sawyer the target, not found. The second ball's so important, especially when Mario Barcia is lurking. He did have a few nibbles, Josh, at trying to recapture the magic of his unbelievable goal against Oakley. Didn't quite get there, but who knows? If you keep buying tickets, eventually you win raffles.
A certain Wayne Gretzky quote comes to mind.
Idara. Performance Mohamed Idara has had tonight.
Unfortunately, Mario Barcia has missed 100% of the shots he has taken this evening. Doesn't mean he should keep his efforts up. Sawyer catching Yokokawa a little late there.
Still on the deck, Asahi Yokokawa. Painter Andrews. And Gore almost seemed to opt out of the header there, just sort of ducked. Came off his back. And they launched it in the Brennan direction.
Trying to outdo Sean Ellis and catch it on his neck.
He's been on a tear in this second half, Andy Brennan. And Sean Ellis is showing he can get it done at both ends of the pitch. So he tracks back to help Heidelberg keep South at bay. And as we enter the final 10 minutes, Josh, I am going to mention a little factoid for you. Of course, they have played a 1-1 draw already this season in round 5 at Lakeside. Harrison Sawyer's goal inside 90 seconds cancelled out by an absolute rocket from Josh Pinn. But they can't play out a 1-1 draw today, Josh. It'll have to go to extra time and indeed penalties. And if it did go to penalties, it would be for the first time since 1982. 1982 in the NSL Cup. Heidelberg United saw off South Melbourne at Olympic Park 5-4 on penalties. South Melbourne hoping they can win the game within the 90. And you would not put it past either side to find a late winner here. Pios is not going to make anything of that one. He stretched every sinew to try and retrieve. Idara's confidence in possession knows no bounds at this point. Jordan Lampard. Oh, trouble here very nearly for Marko Jankovic. And it was Jamal Ali again, Josh, the furthest man forward leading the one-man press. It is quite remarkable from the starting right back.
Oh, he's just so watchable, isn't he, Jamal Ali? You love his work rate. Talk about chasing lost causes. And then makes a smart foul as the ball comes back the other way.
South Melbourne fans spring into voice. I'm hoping that it is a very strong turnout on a freezing winter night of Wednesday evening football at the Village. Soundtrack for a grandstand finish.
Heidelberg have been involved in penalty shootouts in recent memory.
Sawyer, no whistle from Michael Mammons. This could be a massive moment. It's cut back to the edge of the box, and here is Jordan Lampard. Just didn't reach it in time, and you fancy that Ross Archibald, Josh, maybe could have been a bit more selfish in that moment, because that was almost the exact same spot from which Andy Brennan levelled the game.
I think he had a defender closing a little closer there, and Ross Archibald is a team-first player, but we've spoken about him getting in the box a bit more. He is a goal threat.
Bernarda tried to disguise the pass, but Jamal Ali saw it was coming from some distance away. Archibald. We are 6 minutes away from an extra half hour of football, and if you've been a neutral observer on the Football Victoria Facebook or YouTube pages, you're probably not complaining about the prospect of an extra 30 minutes of this. This has been quite the game. But South Melbourne could put paid to those ambitions as Lampard drives it into the middle. Harrison Sawyer just couldn't free the feet to get his shot away. Lampard, another bite at the cherry. Brendan is there at the back post. Olsen in his way and getting the important touches. Archibald. South Melbourne look as though they might be finishing the stronger despite the shorter turnaround.
They found a second wind in this second half. Goals change games. They change the morale and the momentum. And South Melbourne on top at the moment.
Sometimes, Josh, in cup football, players find another gear. Harrison Sawyer will be hopeful that he can conjure up something similar to the second gear he found against Preston Lions. Some worldies to finish that game off. As Heidelberg look to finish it off in the 90. Oh, that's a fully committed sliding challenge to just stop the momentum of Heidelberg from Jack Painter-Andrews. Marshall was clever as Ngor gave chase.
A couple of glimpses of the acceleration of Jaden Gorman.
Collins. Not an out-and-out miscommunication, but maybe difference of interpretation between he and Yaron Souza. Elects to go safety first.
No sense in risking the back pass there.
They have had form for getting it done in extra time and penalties in the past, the Burgers. Dockerty Cup win.
Here comes the long bomb, Painter-Andrews.
Marshall allowed a free header into the hot spot towards goal and in! They've stolen it right at the death, South Melbourne. The fans are against the fence. The ball is in the back of the net. And South Melbourne's Olympic Village curse may be coming to an end, courtesy of Noel Bernarda, who might just be the hero of the day with 3 minutes to play.
Well, it's a trademark South Melbourne goal, isn't it? Heidelberg go to sleep, expecting a deeper delivery from Painter Andrews. Instead, it's Jake Marshall, who's allowed that free header at the near post, gets great distance on the flick, and then Harry Sawyer creates just ridiculous power off a standing start almost. And the follow-up header. There is almost no momentum on that ball, and he drills it towards goal. Noel Bernarda is left to stretch and tuck it in from point-blank range. And a celebration to match the importance of that goal.
Well, when they were the agents of their own demise to start the second half, South Melbourne, when they played their way into trouble to give Asahi Yokokawa the opening goal, it seemed like it would be a long road back. But the likes of this man, Andy Brennan, and Noel Bernarda in the 87th minute have flipped the script in the space of about 20 minutes.
I think Noel Bernarda was doing breaststroke as he celebrated that goal. Olympics themed, perhaps. South Melbourne might just be going for gold in the Dockerty Cup.
Round 13 of the 2019 NPL Victoria season. That is the last time South Melbourne beat any opponent, be it Heidelberg or grand final opposition here at Olympic Village. Sean Ellis, time is against them, Heidelberg, but they don't get referred to as the cardiac kids for no reason, Josh. Could they conjure up another special late moment? It was a 93rd minute equaliser from Sabit and Gore last Friday. They'll have to pull it out of the bag again if they're going to force extra time in the Dockerty Cup playoff. Collins. South will pop every player behind the ball as 5 minutes of stoppage are added on. And South could seal it, but for the crucial touch of Aiden Federhajic. If he doesn't make contact with that ball, Andy Brennan has a one-on-one with Yaron Souza, and it could be game over. Confirmation of those 5 minutes of stoppage added onto the game. It's a decent chunk of time, Josh.
And they know they can do it, Heidelberg. They just seem to be fading late in this game in spite of the extra time they've had to prepare. Harry Sawyer's presence up top seems to have transformed this for South Melbourne.
Just giving chase once again. He may even get onto it. Bernarda and Sawyer just couldn't link up for the second time in as many minutes. And the door stays ajar for Heidelberg United. Lampard unable to prevent the throw, but still earning the plaudits for his attempts to create interference.
Harry Sawyer and Noel Bernarda, the most devastating 1-2 punch in the competition. It's a huge part of why South Melbourne are up where they are on the league table, why they're on their way to the semi-finals of the Dockerty Cup. 14 in all competitions for Noel Bernarda, 18 goals in all comps for Harry Sawyer.
That's not even adding in the assists for Sawyer, of which he has had a handful, and 2 tonight, 2 off the bench. He set up Brennan's equaliser. He produced a superhuman feat of athleticism to flick it on to Noel Bernarda, who does the same, as there's a tangle of bodies between Federhajic and Andy Brennan. He's looking to disrupt this Heidelberg free kick in any way that they can.
It's Ben Collins there that's gone over. He's been in a lot of confrontations tonight, not all of them positive.
Gorman. Nicholas Olsen. And Gore now.
They've sent Aiden Federhajic up as an emergency striker here.
They're going for it, but could it be their undoing? Harrison Sawyer won't reach that one. They've Got 3 minutes left to work with Heidelberg United. Can they pull it out of the fire? Or will South Melbourne break their Olympic Village hoodoo? After 5 years of pain, will the end of the winless run send them to the semis of the Dockerty Cup final? They could make it a sure thing here. Sawyer with Bernarda to his right. He could do it all alone. He could draw the contact. And was it free kick or penalty? That's the question that the fans underneath the grandstand here are asking. It is a free kick conceded by Yokokawa, who goes into the book in the final throes of this game. And from this vantage point, Josh, it looked a tightly run thing.
Here's Shepherd, who's...
Or rather, it was Shepherd into the book.
Yeah, contact just outside the area. A good decision from Michael Manus.
Now, the question is, how desperate will South Melbourne actually be to take this free kick? Harrison Sawyer had a free kick against Preston that they very easily could have done nothing with. Instead, he roosted it into the top left corner from all of 35 yards. So
he told me after the game he'd never take one again, Lockie.
And he won't take this one. Andy Brennan, who has been one of the key architects of this turnaround. It's Andy Brennan. And someone who's on the late shift at Northland has just nearly picked himself up a free ball.
Oh, dear.
But you know what?
It's not the worst tactic.
They will take that because this is going to chew valuable seconds of stoppage away.
Is Andy Brennan playing 4D chess here?
I actually wonder if you might be right.
As Esteban Quintas screamed, Lake.
Well, the sands of time are working against them, Heidelberg United. It's sent forward, and Gore couldn't reach it. Bernarda let the ball bounce, and that allowed the Burgers players to retreat. And Gore gives away the free kick. And South Melbourne, yes, just about there, Josh Parrish.
I feel as if when Johnny A looks back at his changes in this game, he'll wonder whether he went too bold too early, even at 1-0 up. Taking Lesiotis out of that midfield, relying on Yokokawa defensively, which isn't really his game.
Launched into the corner for South. Chested down by Sawyer. Bernarda brings it to an end! The Olympic Village curse lifts, and South are through to the Dockerty Cup semi-final. They came the long road back from 1-0 down. Asahi Yokokawa put Heidelberg on course, but South Melbourne stared into the face of recent history and said, "Not today, old friend." Andy Brennan pulled them level. Harrison Sawyer was the architect of so much of it. He got the assist for the equaliser and ultimately set up the winner. Noel Bernarda will go down as the hero in a playoff game at Olympic Village. That was an absolute thriller if you're a South Melbourne fan, and a pretty decent one if you're a neutral observer too, Josh.
Yeah, sensational entertainment. Heidelberg really put on a show for, 60 minutes of that game. They played some really nice football, but when it counted, they rather shrunk from the affair, and Harry Sawyer's impact substitution looms large over this game. I do wonder whether the tactical changes just gave South the room to hit back, and then Johnny A really rolling the dice, putting Olsen at left back. It just seemed to destabilise the balance of the team. They were too desperate and searching for a winner, and ultimately they've been punished. And South Melbourne will really relish this one. Off a 3-day turnaround and a gut-wrenching defeat to the Oakley Cannons. They come to Olympic Village, the scene of so much heartbreak in recent memory, and they pick up a crucial victory that sets them on course for more silverware. Sends them into the semi-finals, but more importantly, they've broken that run of defeats at Olympic Village.
South Melbourne silenced the critics. Their first win against top 4 NPL Victoria opposition in season 2024. They snap the winless run at Olympic Village. They seal their spot in the Dockerty Cup semi. And they, alongside Heidelberg United, have put on a show here in the Dockerty Cup playoff. It was an absolute cracker at Olympic Village, and we hope you've enjoyed it if you've been watching on at home on the Football Victoria Facebook and YouTube pages. We sign off from quite the showdown here at Catalina Street. Myself, Lockie Flanagan, and Josh Parrish saying goodbye for the final time at Olympic Village. It ends Heidelberg United 1, South Melbourne 2.